Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into a new topic. Today we're looking at Italian witchcraft, specifically through this intriguing book, Aradia, or the Gospel of the Witches, compiled in the late 1800s by Charles Leland. It's really captured people's imaginations for over a century, and for good reason.
Yeah, Leland was a folklorist, really fascinated by those secretive striga, the practitioners of Italian witchcraft. Often women keeping these old traditions alive, passed down for generations, whispering their secrets. You can practically feel him, like unearthing a whole hidden language of magic as he wrote this.
It really does feel like you're stepping into a secret society when you read it, especially when you think about how much of it was kept hidden, largely because of the church. It's almost ironic, isn't it, that it actually helped keep these practices alive for centuries.
Exactly. Leland even compares the book to like an archaeological dig,
Right.
carefully brushing away layers of secrecy of time to reveal what's underneath. And what he finds is this blend of folklore and magic, but also, and this is really interesting, woven into it all hints of ancient Roman mythology.
Okay, so we're talking about Diana then, right? But not just, the Roman goddess of the hunt, the one we might remember from school. This is something different.
Totally different. In Aradia, this Diana, she's something else. She's a powerful sorceress, a protector, a champion of the downtrodden. Oh, and the revered mother of all witches. It really challenges how we usually think of her. Like there was this whole hidden side to her worship. It's pretty empowering, actually.
That's wild. I never knew that about her. And speaking of unexpected figures, Leland tells us about another central character, Aradia, Diana's daughter. And her origin story is something else.
Oh, it's intense. A story on a cosmic scale, practically. Incest, a struggle between darkness and light. And Aradia, she's born with a purpose, to empower the downtrodden through witchcraft. It's a powerful narrative. It speaks to that human need to fight back against oppression, to find agency, even through unconventional means.
It makes you think, right? All throughout history, marginalized groups have found ways to claim power. This idea of magic being a tool for social change. It resonates even today.
It does. And the way Leland describes the magic they practiced, it's so interesting. It's not about these grand rituals in a faraway castle or anything. It's all about the everyday, using ordinary objects to connect to the divine.
You mean those charms, like with the perforated stones? Or, wait, weren't there ones with lemons and pins? We have to talk about those. Those are fascinating.
Oh yeah, the lemon and pin spells. Yeah. They put so much meaning into those seemingly simple things. Like just finding a stone with a naturally formed hole in it, that was a sign of Diana's favor. And the colors of the pins you stick in the lemon, not random at all. Yellow for joy, prosperity, but black pins. Well, let's just say you wouldn't want too many of those.
So it wasn't just superstition. There was real intention behind it. They believed these charms could actually influence their lives.
Exactly. And that belief, that connection to something bigger, that was powerful for them. There's even this spell for good fortune in anything you do. Imagine, like, starting your day by invoking Diana, then sprinkling yourself with oil to banish bad luck. Almost poetic in a way.
Poetic, maybe. But I think I'll stick with my coffee for now. But you're right, it is fascinating. All these rituals people created to feel like they had some control, some say, in a world that often felt so unpredictable. But Leland doesn't shy away from the, let's say, the less cheerful side of these practices.
Absolutely. There are love spells, some that are a bit ethically questionable by today's standards. One even describes how to change your lover into a dog, then back again.
Hold on, a dog? Wow, that's a new one. Why a dog specifically? What's the significance?
Well, Diana's often associated with dogs as protectors. So, in a way, it kind of reflects the power dynamics of the time. Imagine thinking you could control someone's free will with magic like that.
It's a good reminder that as alluring as these traditions seem, connected to nature and all, they are still a product of their time. Before we get too deep into the ethics of it all, I'm curious, we've talked about the spells and the charms, but what does Aradia tell us about women, their role in all this, especially during time when they held so little power in society?
That's an important point. This isn't about devil worship like some people might assume. This Gospel of the Witches, it's really a testament to women, especially those on the fringes, finding strength, solace in Diana in the old ways. It's resilience, rebellion even. And it celebrates the feminine in a world that often tried to erase it. It's like Diana offers this shield almost, a source of power that exists outside all those rules, those patriarchal structures of their time.
A secret society with its own rituals and beliefs, and at the center is this goddess who champions, well, the underdog. That's a powerful image, and it still resonates, don't you think? even today.
Absolutely. And it kind of makes you wonder, what is it about the feminine, about women, and this connection to the unknown that we're still so drawn to, even centuries later?
Yeah.
This idea of a feminine mystique. Leland hints at this, through stories about these women, followers of Diana, their strength, resilience, and yeah, even their potential for, well, subversion.
You're making me want to revisit some of those stories. Like, what was the one with Rarasa? She dreamt of a lavish wedding even though she was living in poverty. It's like Cinderella, but with a pagan twist.
Right. It's this blend of the earthly and divine. Here's this young woman, driven to despair. She tries to end her own life, but instead of death, she meets Diana. And Diana gives her a chance for redemption through worship. It's about second chances and the power of belief, how it can completely change you.
And then there's that story, the female pilgrim of the House of the Wind, another woman who defied what society expected of her.
Oh yeah, imagine this. Young woman, her mother, very devout, wants her to be a nun. But she longs for love, a family. That conflict between what you want and what society tells you, it's something a lot of people still struggle with, even now.
Totally. Especially when you hear how her mother locked her away for falling in love. Good thing Diana stepped in when she did.
Right. She escapes, becomes this wandering preacher, spreading the word of Diana, the old religion. Talk about challenging the status quo.
Makes you wonder, right? If these stories, passed down over generations, were a way for women to find strength when the world wasn't giving them any.
Exactly. They're like whisters of resistance, finding power outside the norm. And speaking of finding power, we can't forget Tana and Endemone, Leland's take on the myth of Diana and Endymion.
Oh, right. The shepherd who was granted eternal sleep. Although this version, it sounds a bit more passionate.
Oh, for sure. Tana, that's the Etruscan name for Diana, she falls head over heels for this handsome shepherd, Endemone. But there's this jealous witch who also wants him, so she curses him to sleep forever.
So it's like a love triangle with the supernatural twist. I'm intrigued. What happens next?
Well, Tana, powerful goddess that she is, uses her magic to try and break the curse. Her song, the one meant to awaken him, it's supposed to be both beautiful and haunting. Talk about the power of love.
It's interesting how different this is from those classic stories about Diana, the chaste huntress. Here she is, driven by desire, willing to break the rules for love.
It makes her feel more real, more human, right? And it just shows how complex the feminine is. Strength and vulnerability, independence and desire, they're not mutually exclusive.
That's for sure. Okay, now we have to talk about Laverna. Leland introduces us to her, and well, let's just say she's a bit unconventional for a gospel.
Right. Laverna's a trip. She's the goddess of thieves, cheats, everyone living on the edge of society. She's got cunning, she's witty, and she really doesn't care much for rules.
Not exactly who you expect to see in this kind of book, is she?
And yet she's still under Diana's protection. It shows that in this tradition, there's a place for everyone. Even those who don't really fit in, who live outside the lines. It really makes you think about good and evil, right and wrong, how we define those things.
It's about inclusion, I guess. Recognizing that even those who stray from the path deserve some grace.
Exactly. Laverna shows that the divine, it can pop up in unexpected places, even in the shadows. Beyond all the stories, though, Leland really stresses how important incantations and rituals were.
Oh, yeah, he goes into detail, right? The specific words, the way you say them, even the gestures, like he's trying to preserve a whole language of magic.
Totally. And it's not just reciting words. It's about your intention, your belief, connecting to something bigger. Take the ritual to ensure a good harvest, for example.
Oh, tell me more about that one. That sounds really interesting.
Okay, so you have this horn filled with wine, the wine that symbolizes Diana's blood, and you offer a prayer to the new moon, asking Diana to protect the vines.
That's a beautiful image. A toast to the goddess, recognizing how she's tied to nature, to abundance.
Right. It gets better. If the vines weren't doing well, you'd go down to your wine cellar at midnight and blow the horn as loud as you could, calling out to Diana for help.
Wow. Makes you think about where those practices came from, Generations of people, their beliefs, their experiences. But it's not all rituals and spells. Leland talks a lot about healing, the power of nature.
Absolutely. There's this one story about a woman. She's been through a lot, years of hardship, illness. She goes looking for healing herbs. And who does she meet? Diana. It shows that in this tradition, nature and the divine, they're inseparable.
It's about being in harmony with nature, respecting its power, its wisdom.
Exactly. And that connection extends even to fairies. Leland tells this charming story about where they come from. Have you heard it?
Ooh, I love a good fairy tale. Tell me.
So there's this kind young man. He's down on his luck. He stumbles upon these fairies dancing in the moonlight. He asks who they are.
And what do they say?
They tell him, "We are moon rays, children of Diana, born from the full moon's light." And guess what? Because this young man was also born under a full moon, they basically claim him as one of their own and offer to help him out.
I love that. It's like that reminder that humans, nature, we're all connected, part of something bigger.
And that connection, it's not always, gentle and sweet. Leland talks about how wild Diana can be, too. Her connection to snakes, for instance. She's even called the Queen of Serpents. There's a story about this young man, Gianni. He's climbing a tree when he meets a talking snake.
Hold on, a talking snake. This I gotta hear. What does it say to him?
It offers him this amazing gift, understanding the language of animals. But to get the gift, Gianni has to prove he's worthy first.
There's always a catch, isn't there? What does he have to do?
The snake tells him to climb down the tree without looking down. Total trust, right? And as he's about to reach the ground, he runs into this strange old woman.
Okay, now that sounds like it's straight out of a fairy tale. I bet she's a witch.
You got it. And she's clearly connected to Diana's magic, too. She tells Johnny about his future, all these challenges he's going to face.
So the snake offered him knowledge. What does the witch give him?
Guidance. She tells him he'll meet a tired horse and a weary goat on his journey, and he has to invoke Diana's blessing on them. It's a lesson in compassion, seeing how we're all connected.
And by helping them, he's helping himself in a way.
Exactly. And it's because he does this, he shows his kindness, that he gets the snake's gift in the end. He finishes his journey and can now talk to animals. He respected nature, honored Diana's magic, and it paid off.
All these stories, they really bring Leland's vision of Italian witchcraft to life. It's this blend of ancient knowledge, nature-based spirituality, and this deep, deep reverence for the feminine. It makes you wonder, is any of this still practiced today? Somewhere out there, hidden away.
It's a question that lingers, doesn't it? It speaks to how powerful these beliefs are. They endured centuries of persecution, after all.
This whole deep dive into Aradia has really changed how I think about witchcraft. It's not just about, casting spells. It's about finding your own strength, connecting to the natural world, and honoring that divine feminine in all its forms.
It's a tradition that embraces everything, the light and the dark, recognizing that both exist within us all. And, what's really interesting is how Leland, as he's exploring all this, he kind of drops this bombshell. He suggests that Italian witchcraft, with its female-centric creation story, this reverence for a powerful goddess, he thinks it might be older than a lot of the major religions we know today.
Whoa, that's a big statement. It really makes you think, have we totally misunderstood these ancient beliefs? Like we've barely scratched the surface.
Right. It challenges everything we think we know about the origins of spirituality, about how humans have sought meaning throughout history. What if, underneath all the dogma, the doctrines, there's something older, something that honors nature, the power of women,
It's like those lemon and pin spells we talked about. So simple, but full of meaning. We might just see superstition, but what if it's something deeper? An echo of something ancient and wise.
That's what I love about Leland's book. He's not trying to give you all the answers. He's opening up these possibilities, these questions, making you think, explore, rediscovering these hidden currents of belief that shaped our world.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Aradia, or the Gospel of the Witches, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from this?
I think it's just remembering that belief systems, especially something like witchcraft, they're never simple. They're more complex, more nuanced than we often give them credit for. Leland's book, it reminds us that these traditions, they have a history, a richness. They're deeply connected to the human experience, even if we don't necessarily believe in them ourselves.
It's about approaching these topics with an open mind, right? Seeing the human stories, that desire for something more.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing how powerful belief can be, how alluring the unknown is, and how we, even now, are still trying to understand things like power, our place in the world in this grand scheme of existence.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder all of this. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Aradia and Italian witchcraft. Until next time, keep those minds open and keep asking questions.